Hey everyone. In the last video, we spent some time talking about the changes in the Regents chemistry course, and then moved on to talk about what chemistry really is. Before we learn about real chemistry concepts, we need to lay a foundation by which we will study and understand chemistry itself. The first foundational principle I want to talk about is how science is done in general, the scientific method. Over centuries and millennia of time, humans have always asked questions about the world around them. From why rain happens, to how to build buildings, and even to modern day rocket science, every scientist needs to follow a set of principles when trying to figure stuff out. This set of principles is called the scientific method and has roots to ancient Greece and medieval times. To ensure that all scientists, future, past, and present, maintain the integrity and the trust of the public and scientific community, the scientific method needs to be followed closely. This ensures that no one favors a particular outcome and that all results can be trusted. Now, let's talk about what the scientific method is. Every discovery always starts with an observation or just noticing that something interesting happens. For instance, when making my morning tea today, I realized that if I let the cup sit on the counter too long, my sugar doesn't dissolve very well. My observation was quite literally me noticing that something or a phenomenon occurs. The next step I'll probably do is ask, why? Why does my sugar struggle to dissolve if I let the cup sit for too long? What we just did was ask a question. Why, how, or when does our observation occur? The next step of the scientific method is crucial. Before answering our question, we need to propose what is called a hypothesis, or somewhat of an educated guess. My hypothesis in this situation might be that hotter water increases how easily sugar can dissolve. In a way, the hypothesis I made has no actual evidence. It's just me guessing an answer to my question. The rest of my experiment is now going to test my hypothesis. The results I'll get at the end might prove or disprove my hypothesis. I say this with caution because disproving my hypothesis is not a bad thing. Instead, I proved that the opposite was true. To prove or disprove my hypothesis, we'll need to conduct an experiment or a procedure. An example of my experiment might be several different cups of varying temperature and adding sugar into each to see how easy it is to dissolve sugar in each cup. The details of my experiment, however, are extremely important. First, we need to mention what an independent and dependent variable is. An independent variable is the one characteristic we change in the experiment. In other words, to make sure our experiment is valid, we can only change one thing, and everything else must be exactly the same. Our independent variable in this example would be the temperature of the tea in each cup. Everything else must be the same, like the size of the cup, the amount of water, the amount and type of sugar, the location of the cups, the amount of type of tea, and so on. By doing this, we can narrow down our results and be able to say that the temperature of the tea was the only thing that affected the sugar. The dependent variable is the measurement we're making, which in this case is how easily or maybe how quickly the sugar will dissolve. We also need to establish two groups, the control and experimental group. The control group is the situation in which nothing is changed at all, including the independent variable. In our experiment, we can make our control group a cup of water that is exactly room temperature. The experimental group are all the samples in which we change the independent variable. All other cups will be part of the experimental group. Let's say I conducted my tea experiment and I determined the amount of time required for the sugar to completely dissolve in each cup. These are the results of my experiment, and often we'll enter our data into tables or graphs. We can further analyze these results and generate a conclusion. This conclusion will be the idea that either proves or disproves our original hypothesis. For instance, I can see that the time of dissolving steadily decreases with an increase in water temperature. This means that the hotter the water is, the easier it is to dissolve sugar. Therefore, my hypothesis was correct. Most of the time, scientists will take the results and publish their findings into a scientific journal for other scientists to see. Other scientists may retry our experiment or just analyze it. This process is called peer review, during which we can get really useful feedback from our peers. This whole entire process occurs every day in so many countries and labs worldwide. As instructors, we try to inspire our students to become the researchers and scientists, and instilling the values of the scientific method is super important. I have a cool worksheet in the description below to practice identifying the concepts of the scientific method. See you in the next video.